Today, I'd like to take a look at some of the situations that we found in the black schools and take a look also at some of the media aspects in terms of the portrayal of blacks and minorities. Interesting when you look at the black schools, they were given fewer resources than the white schools initially. The school year also was much shorter. It was much shorter for a particular reason so that the students could work in the fields. So as soon as the crops were ready and the soil was ready and the weather was good, school was over because the primary responsibility of the students, of course, was not learning but was working. And they were viewed in economic terms. That if they worked, we'd have more money, more crops, and all of that. So that was the educational situation. School boards were also told, and this is very interesting, they were told to hire the less competent teachers because they didn't want them catching up with the white students. So the thought was, well, we'll hire these teachers, not that good, but at least they'll have some teachers. So the idea of separate but equal never really worked. And even today, we see this segregated pattern continuing. We see in a lot of areas schools that are primarily minority. They don't have the same level of resources. They don't have the same level of facilities in terms of quality, same level of access to computers. So this idea of equal education, as we see, has never really been a true reality in America. Of course, something we're working towards and something we continue to want to improve and look at. Good to know the history of it, but let's bring it up to date and let's see if we can change and make the situation a lot better. And certainly improved greatly over where it was, and we're on that trajectory to improve, obviously, even more. And that's the direction, of course, we want to go in. We also, when we look at it, see an interesting distortion in the media. Studies have been done, and in terms of how the media portrays minorities. Some examples. Black people make up 27% of the poor in America, but they appear in 59% of the poor depicted in the news. So, obviously more than twice as much in terms of their representative numbers. So the thought would be, if you look at some news programs, well, these black people, they're primarily the poor ones, and then white people, they're pretty well off, and again, not really the case. And so this distortion can lead to us having the wrong perceptions. And important to kind of filter that out and say, well, what really are the true statistics here? What percentage of people are poor? And how can we work, obviously, to alleviate poverty? Because that's the direction, again, we want to be going in. It's with education to improve it, certainly to improve this area as well. White people account for 60% of the poor, but are in only 17% of the news about the poor. And this we find from studies by Travis Dixon. So again, a distortion, because we say, well, why are they in so few stories about the poor if they are the larger percentage of the poor? But again, a lot of times this would kind of feed into our bias in terms of poverty programs. Well, we don't want to kind of go in that direction because maybe we're favoring too much minorities or whatever, and we're favoring blacks over whites or Chinese over Native Americans, but the idea is, well, what are the true statistics there? And again, with anything, what can we do to improve the situation? Obviously, make it better. Another area would be crime, of course. Those involving a black suspect and a white person make up about 42% of the crime on TV news, but account for only 10% of the actual crime. And that's from an article in The Economist, February 20th, 2018. So again, we see this distortion. We would think that, most of the crime is really, black on white, and this is terrible, and, we've got to do things to stop that and prevent that, and then we have to take all sorts of measures. We've got to get tough on crime, but actually only 10% of the actual crime, so a real smaller number, but again, in our head, again, watching the TV news, we would think a much larger number. But again, who would read this article? Who would look at these statistics? Who would analyze it? Most people, we just don't have the time to do that. And so we get our information, willy-nilly from this source and that source, not really checked out, not really thorough. And so, again, distortions can creep into, what's happening with us. Also, the common perception that, black teenagers, these girls are giving birth to babies all over the place. Black teenagers giving birth have actually fallen from 118 per 1,000 in 1991 to, in 2017, 28 per 1,000. This we find from the publication Child Trends. So we see, again, a much smaller number, but again, what is the perception? Well, the perception is all these black teenagers having babies all over the place, and we're supporting them, and that we're paying all this money, and they should be responsible, and all of this. And again, what are the facts? This is the thing we have to kind of come back to, because again, the distortions are so easy to come by, and so helping us kind of focus in on what is the reality is extremely helpful. Examples kind of abound about this. Famous one happened at a pool party in McKinney, Texas in 2015. White residents in McKinney called the police because there were blacks at a pool party. Primarily white neighborhood, and what are these black people doing? They're invading our neighborhood. They're coming to this pool party. So a police officer took a black teenage girl out of the pool and slammed her to the ground with his knee on her body. And she was invited to be at this party. She was having a good time. And again, people get caught up in situations, and they say, well, maybe you shouldn't be here. What do you, this is a white neighborhood. And again, we have to realize that we're trying to live in a multiracial society where we respect all. And again, people get nervous. They think, black people, crime, pool party, my neighborhood, and all of a sudden something that arises from our caution maybe, or our watching the news and getting this distortion and thinking all this crime is going to happen. And we can tend to overreact to situations, and it's understandable. But again, it helps to have some good information. It helps to know what's actually happening. Maybe to inquire of the people, well, were these people invited to be at the pool party, and they were invited, that's, you have the right to invite them. Well, it's my neighborhood, I don't like it, I don't feel comfortable. Well, this is America, people can invite whomever they want to a pool party, and, it's fine. And in some situations, of course, that caution is important. You have to, there could be people that are intruders, and we have to take proper steps. But again, we have to be careful because of what can happen. Certainly, that black young lady who was at the pool party, she's going to have a scar, for the rest of her life, thinking, why did this happen? Why are white people treating me like this? It leaves a bad taste, certainly, in her mouth about white people and their perception of her as a black young lady. We also see the tendency, of course, for those who are in the lower caste to kind of fight among themselves. And we have that situation. A lot of people are called Uncle Toms. Well, gee, why are you doing this? Why are you cooperating with the other caste? And why are you helping them discriminate against me? So you have those tensions as well. You also have the idea of the HNIC, which is referred to as the head Negro in charge. And that is, well, we'll make this Negro the head, and he can be over the others, and gives him sort of a one-up position, in the caste system. He's got a better position. And so these things, again, can be used in terms of creating tension within the group. We also have that expression, crabs in a barrel, telling those in the higher caste about any unrest. So if there's any kind of alliances being formed where people are going to challenge a certain part of the system, say maybe something that is unjust or discriminatory, and somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute, you got to these people they're talking about this, they might do something." We have it, for example, in union organizing all the time. Well, they're going to organize a union, and well, maybe we should fire them, get rid of them, this type of situation. And we also have, of course, the problem of colorism, and that is trying to be closer in color to the dominant caste. Both I'm a lighter skinned, I'm closer, I'm going to be more acceptable. If I'm really dark skinned, oh boy, I'm going to be in a lot of troubles. So these are some of the dynamics that we see and we find within the caste system. And again, what is the point? The point is that we have to kind of be aware of this, get some good information, and try to be reasonable in how we approach these situations so that we bring equality and justice for more people.